Hey everybody, I'm going to be reading a chapter called Lavender, which is kind of short, and then I'll read part of the next chapter after that. Lavender. In the middle of the first week of Matilda's first term, Miss Honey said to the class, "I have some important news for you, so listen carefully. You too, Matilda, put that book down for a moment and pay attention." Small, eager faces looked up and listened. "It is the headmistress's custom," Miss Honey went on, "to take over the class for one period each week. She does this with every class in the school, and each class has a fixed day and a fixed time. Ours is always at 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoons, immediately after lunch. So tomorrow at 2 o'clock, Miss Trunchbull will be taking over for me for one lesson. I shall be here as well, of course, but only as a silent witness. Is that understood?" "Yes, Miss Honey," they chirped. "A word of warning to you all," Miss Honey said. "The headmistress is very strict about everything. Make sure your clothes are clean, your faces are clean, and your hands are clean. Speak only when spoken to. When she asks you a question, stand up at once before you answer it. Never argue with her. Never answer back. Never try to be funny. If you do, you will make her angry, and when the headmistress gets angry, you had better watch out." "You can say that again," Lavender murmured. "I'm quite sure," Miss Honey said, "that she will be testing you on what you are meant to have learned this week, which is your 2 times table. So I strongly advise you to swat it up when you get home tonight. Get your mother or father to hear you on it." "What else will she test us on?" someone asked. "Spelling," Miss Honey said. "Try to remember everything you've learned these last few days. And one more thing. A jug of water and a glass must always be on the table here when the headmistress comes in. She never takes a lesson without that. Now, who will be responsible for seeing that it's there?" "I will," Lavender said at once. "Very well, Lavender," Miss Honey said. "It will be your job to go to the kitchen and get the jug and fill it with water and put it on the table with a clean, empty glass just before the lesson starts." "What if the jug's not in the kitchen?" Lavender asked. "There are a dozen headmistress's jugs and glasses in the kitchen," Miss Honey said. "They are used all over the school." "I won't forget," Lavender said. "I promise I won't." Already, Lavender's scheming mind was going over the possibilities that this water jug job had opened up for her. She longed to do something truly heroic. She admired the older girl Hortensia to distraction for the darling deeds she had performed in the school. She also admired Matilda, who had sworn her to secrecy about the parrot job she had brought off at home, and also about the great hair oil switch, which had bleached her father's hair. It was her turn now to become a heroine, if only she could come up with a brilliant plot. On the way home from school that afternoon, she began to mull over the various possibilities. And when at last the germ of a brilliant idea hit her, she began to expand on it and lay her plans with the same kind of care that the Duke of Wellington had done before the Battle of Waterloo. Admittedly, the enemy on this occasion was not Napoleon, but you would never have got anyone at Cruncham Hall to admit the headmistress was a less formidable foe than the famous Frenchman. Great skill would have to be exercised, Lavender told herself, and great secrecy observed if she was to come out of this one alive. There was a muddy pond at the bottom of Lavender's garden, and this was the home of a colony of newts. The newt, although fairly common in English ponds, is not often seen by ordinary people because it is a shy and murky creature. It is an incredibly ugly, gruesome-looking animal, rather like a baby crocodile but with a shorter head. It is quite harmless, but it doesn't look it. It is about 6 inches long and very slimy, with a greenish-gray skin on top and an orange-colored belly underneath. It is, in fact, an amphibian, which can live in or out of water. That evening, Lavender went to the bottom of the garden, determined to catch a newt. They are swiftly moving animals and not easy to get a hold of. She lay on the bank for a long time, waiting patiently until she spotted a whopper. Then, using her school hat as a net, she swooped and caught it. She had lined her pencil box with pondweed, ready to receive the creature, but she discovered that it was not easy to get the newt out of the hat and into the pencil box. It wriggled and squirmed like quicksilver, and apart from that, the box was only just long enough to take it. When she did get in at last, she had to be careful not to trap its tail in the lid when she slid it closed. A boy next door called Rupert Entwistle had told her that if you chopped off a newt's tail, the tail stayed alive and grew into another newt 10 times bigger than the first one. It could be the size of an alligator. Lavender didn't quite believe that, but she was not prepared to risk it happening. Eventually, she managed to slide the lid of the pencil box right home, and the newt was hers. Then, on second thought, she opened up the lid, just the tiniest fraction, so the creature could breathe. The next day, she carried her secret weapon to school in her satchel. She was tingling with excitement. She was longing to tell Matilda about her plan of battle. In fact, she wanted to tell the whole class, but she finally decided to tell nobody. It was better that way, because then no one, even when put under the most severe torture, would be able to name her as the culprit. Lunchtime came. Today it was sausages and baked beans, Lavender's favorite, but she couldn't eat it. "Are you feeling all right, Lavender?" Miss Honey asked her from the head of the table. "I had such a huge breakfast," Lavender said. "I really couldn't eat a thing." And there she is, catching the newt. Immediately after lunch, she dashed off to the kitchen and found one of the Trunchbull's famous jugs. It was a large, bulging thing made of blue glazed pottery. Lavender filled it half full of water and carried it, together with a glass, into the classroom and set it on the teacher's table. The classroom was still empty. Quick as a flash, Lavender got her pencil box from her satchel and slid open the lid just a tiny bit. The newt was lying quite still. With great care, she held the box over the neck of the jug and pulled the lid fully open and tipped the newt in. There was a plop as it landed in the water. Then it thrashed around wildly for a few seconds before settling down. And now, to make the newt feel more at home, Lavender decided to give it all the pondweed from the pencil box as well. The deed was done. All was ready. Lavender put her pencils back into the rather damp pencil box and returned it to its correct place on her own desk. Then she went out and joined the others in the playground until it was time for the lesson to begin. And the next chapter is called The Weekly Test. At 2 o'clock sharp, the class assembled, including Miss Honey, who noted that the jug of water and the glass were in the proper place. Then she took up a position standing right at the back. Everyone waited. Suddenly, in marched the gigantic figure of the headmistress in her belted smock and green breeches. "Good afternoon, children," she barked. "Good afternoon, Miss Trunchbull," they chirped. The headmistress stood before the class, legs apart, hands on hips, glaring at the small boys and girls who sat nervously at their desk in front of her. "Not a very pretty sight," she said. Her expression was one of utter distaste, as though she were looking at something a dog had done in the middle of the floor. "What a bunch of nauseating little warts you are." Everyone had the sense to stay silent. "It makes me vomit," she went on, "to think that I am going to have to put up with a load of garbage like you in my school for the next 6 years. I can see that I'm going to have to expel as many of you as possible to save myself from going round the bend." She paused and snorted several times. It was a curious noise. "You can hear the same sort of thing if you walk through a riding stable when the horses are being fed. I suppose," she went on, "your mothers and fathers tell you you're wonderful. Well, I'm here to tell you the opposite, and you'd better believe me. Stand up, everybody." They all got quickly to their feet. "Now put your hands out in front of you, and as I walk past, I want you to turn them over so I can see if they're clean on both sides." The Trunchbull began a slow march along the rows of desks, inspecting the hands. All went well until she came to a small boy in the second row. "What's your name?" she barked. "Nigel," the boy said. "Nigel what?" "Nigel Hicks," the boy said. "Nigel Hicks what?" the Trunchbull bellowed. She bellowed so loud, she nearly blew the little chap out the window. "That's it," Nigel said, "unless you want my middle names as well." He was a brave little fellow, and one could see that he was trying not to be scared by the Gorgon who towered above him. "I do not want your middle name, you blister," the Gorgon bellowed. "What is my name?" "Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "Then use it when you address me. Now then, let's try again. What is your name?" "Nigel Hicks, Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "That's better," the Trunchbull said. "Your hands are filthy, Nigel. When did you last wash them?" "Well, let me think," Nigel said. That's rather difficult to remember exactly. It could have been yesterday or it could have been the day before. The Trunchbull's whole body and face seemed to swell up as though she were being inflated by a bicycle pump. "I knew it," she bellowed. "I knew as soon as I saw you, you were nothing but a piece of filth. What is your father's job, a sewage worker?" "He's a doctor," Nigel said, "and a jolly good one. He says we're all so covered with bugs anyway that a bit of extra dirt never hurts anyone." "I'm glad he's not my doctor," the Trunchbull said. "And why, might I ask, is there a baked bean on the front of your shirt?" "We had them for lunch, Miss Trunchbull." "And do you usually put your lunch on the front of your shirt, Nigel? Is that what this famous doctor father of yours has taught you to do?" "Baked beans are hard to eat, Miss Trunchbull. They keep falling off my fork." "You are disgusting," the Trunchbull bellowed. "You are a walking germ factory. I don't wish to see any more of you today. Go and stand in the corner on one leg with your face to the wall." "But, Miss Trunchbull—" "Don't argue with me, boy, or I'll make you stand on your head. Now do as you're told." Nigel went. "Now stay where you are, boy, while I test you on your spelling to see if you've learned anything all this past week. And don't turn around when you talk to me. Keep your nasty little face to the wall. Now then, spell right." "Which one?" Nigel asked. "The thing you do with a pen, or the one that means the opposite of wrong?" He happened to be an unusually bright child, and his mother had worked hard with him at home on spelling and reading. So that's all we have time for today. So we will see what happens to Nigel and what happens to Miss Trunchbull, and what happened to the newt that Lavender caught and put in the jug. So all those things will be answered on Monday. I hope you all have a great weekend. Bye.